Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Honestly, not an issue. I guess a feature that is talked about a lot. And what the feature is the great skill check. Obviously, for those who know, you get skill checks periodically while you're healing, doing generators, and if you hit the great skill check, it gives you like a little bit of more of additional progress, right? On its own, it's still really good, but it's not like, you know, super game breaking. Yes, it can mess up with the killer's macro and time management, but there's also just so many things and perks in the game that over the years, the great skill check value is just something you don't. It's like something you don't really care about. You're more like, oh, do they have deja vu? Are they on my 3 gem with deja, or are they doubled with prove thyself? You're more concerned about like the gen perks rather than like the actual great skill check itself. At least for gens. When we're talking about heals, though, I think, especially on heals, great skill checks on their own are insane, right? Obviously, because of the inconsistency of which skill checks appear, you could get a heal with zero. None. No skill checks. You can heal someone for what? 10 seconds, I think a heal is? Never get a skill check in your life. So it doesn't matter. You could also get a heal with like 5 or 4. So if you hit all greats, you just save like half your time healing. And I think that inconsistency is kind of what makes skill check, great skill checks like really fucking broken. Because you could account for a heal knowing, hey, this person has Dead Hard, DS, Unbreakable, Soul Guard. So you know their whole build. So you know, hey, if this person is healing someone, it should take 10 seconds. But with great skill checks, it could take way less than that. It can go half. So when you as the killer are trying to focus on your macro while also focusing on your micro and doing everything that you need to do in order to win the game, the difference in time like that is enough to just throw you off completely. Because you'll go, oh, wait, was that the person that I thought was healing? Was that a perk on some other survivor? Was that a medkit? Did they get like a medkit out of a chest or something? Did they trade items? You know, it makes you second guess yourself because of how fast the heal was. And then we're not even like, we haven't even talked about perks yet. Also, before I keep talking, I know a bunch of people are going to go, oh, this guy just keeps fucking complaining. Survivors can't have anything. I'll talk about survivor issues. Trust me, if I think something's overpowered on one side, I'm going to say it. If something's overpowered on the other side, I'm going to say it. Right now, though, I just think there are far more overpowered things on Survivor than on Killer. Don't get me wrong. Killer does have overpowered shit. But it is more glaringly obvious, especially someone who currently plays Killer more, to see the OP shit on Survivor end. Anyways, going back to what I was saying. When you begin to put in perks, this shit gets a little out of hand. For example, Hyperfocus, right? Hyperfocus doesn't just work on gens, it works on heals as well. So you get increased speeds on both of those. Stakeout, so then good skill checks count as great skill checks. You have perks like, or sorry, not perks. You have add-ons like the great skill check add-on on medkits. You combine that with a perk like Resurgence, you now heal yourself in, what was it? Was it 2 seconds or 1 second? I don't remember. But you see what I mean? It's like continuous stacking off of great skill checks. Don't get me wrong, though, that same person, because of how inconsistent they are, could get off the hook and just not get a skill check the whole time. So it's like they just did a normal Resurgence medkit heal. Which, don't get me wrong, is still very fast. But, like, if someone has a medkit and then gets that great skill check, it's so fast to the point where, like, if the killer was on, like, coming back to hook, and you were in his tear radius, you would be healed by the time he was in front of you. Assuming this is like a M1 killer, he had to walk up to you. But like that's how fast the heals are. So when you have like inconsistencies like that in an already like really inconsistent game with like RNG and stuff like that, it's so like hard to manage things. You start like you start feeling like you're going crazy because you're like, oh, this should take this amount of time, but in reality, it's changing because they have certain perks or they got more skill checks than someone else. Like, even on gens, the amount of times that most, probably everybody who have popped a gen last second before a killer was able to get them off because they hit one great skill check at the beginning of the gen, it happens fairly often, and great skill checks, you know, they progress the gen faster. They'll lead to the gen popping sooner. And especially if you get really lucky and you get like consistent greats, even without hyper focus, that gen is going to start flying more. And you're, as the killer, you're gonna go, was that gen doubled? Was that a toolbox? How? I thought the toolbox player was over there. They don't have a toolbox. Was that hyper focus? And then when you start thinking like that, you go, oh, okay, so this guy must have like resilience, or he must have deja vu. And then you get hit with like a dead hard because you thought deja vu with this fourth perk, but in reality it wasn't. So like, it just starts messing up your thoughts, and it progresses and regresses the game at the same time, if that makes any sense. Because when, like, say if the killer, right, the first time you get 10 great skill checks, hit them all, they'll go, oh, okay, so this is how fast gens are going. Okay, let me play accordingly and do what I need to do as the killer, whether in the scenario it's tunnel, slug, camp. So they think, oh, okay, if gens are going to keep moving like this, I need to do this at this time. But then gens slow down. And the killer who is now like tunneling is getting tremendous value. And then on the survivor end, it looks like, wow, look at this killer tunneling with no reason. Look, the gens aren't even going that fast. But then the first one popped in like 75 seconds instead of 90 because of the amount of great skill checks that they had. So it's like, you initially think, holy hell, this team is going to be super efficient. But in reality, they just got lucky. They just happen to get a lot of great skill checks. And I think that's honestly a huge reason as to why, especially at like the start of games, killers play the way they do. Like, typically, if the first gen doesn't pop until like the killer has like a down or two, they usually won't tunnel. They will try to slow the game down. But then if a killer does that, and then, you know, they start getting mass great skill checks on their heals, on their gens, they then lose all the pressure that they had because they weren't, you know, tunneling, repeating hooks, etc. But, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like the most broken thing in the game, but it does definitely change how the game is played. And I think on both roles for sure. Like, because the mental, like I said, it's all about, like, what you're thinking throughout the game. If something happens, humans are, like, naturally, like, we see patterns. So if you see one gen pop 15 seconds earlier than a gen should pop, when you think that's a solo person, and then you eventually find out it is, you'll go, okay, so that person's going to do a gen at that exact same speed again. But, like, it's not, like, it's such a weird scenario. I get, like, don't get me wrong, this is a party game, but, like, and they're trying to make it even more casual, which is why I think they did the quality of life stuff, which, you know, we already talked about in a past video. But, I, like, it's so inconsistent. I think if this game ever does have a ranked mode, either skill checks as, like, an entirety, or just the great part of the skill check would have to be removed. But, talking about, like, more perks, when you just combine, like, items and perks with hitting great skill checks, obviously you have, like, hyper focus that increases skill check rate. I think there's another perk, or it could be, is it Alan Wake? Does that perk increase your odds of getting skill checks or decrease it? I don't know. Someone can prove me wrong. But I think it's increases. So if you have a perk like that, and then you're consistently getting even more, and then you have stakeout, so like even if you miss, you still get the great, and then like, it's not even just skill check perks as well. It's like perks that increase efficiency. So when you combine it with like resilience and deja vu and prove thyself, botany, do no harm, anything that increases the speed of an action, you begin to go like, oh, this could possibly have been a double or a double for some time, but then it wasn't. And like, it keeps messing you up. Like that's like the whole point of the video. Like my entire point is like the inconsistency in time of gens and like actions just makes you like start doubling, like second guessing yourself and like, oh, am I right? Am I wrong? What's going on here and there? And a lot of the times it just results into, oh, let me just tunnel. Let me just camp. Let me just slug. And like, obviously those tactics aren't guaranteed wins, but it's, the earlier you do it in the game, the more likely, besides camp, the more likely you are to just end up winning. Especially if you're like a stronger tier killer. Like if your killer is you know, fucking Blight and you're tunneling at 5, you're probably winning the game, especially if it's against solo queue players. And even against Swift, you still, depending on like how good they are, you'll probably win. But yeah, it's such a tricky thing, right? It's like they want to, I understand, like they want to keep the game casual, and I guess you can just like go, it's like, it's another feature, just why are we crying about it? But yeah, I mean that's all I wanted to say, honestly. Have a good one.